Yo guys, what is up? Maxi here in our Diablo 4 video, and today I wanted to do a quick crafting guide on how to create god tier or perfect items. There is more crafting and things to do in Diablo, and there's new systems with the legendary aspects, and I wanted to kind of give a quick guide for it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you find it informative. Let's get right into it. So the first thing to understand about min-maxing your build and getting the most out of your gear is that legendary gear is no longer super special. In fact, you can take any legendary ability or any legendary aspect and put it on a rare piece of gear or transfer it to a different legendary. What that means is that the stats that an item rolls with is more important than ever. Now, a lot of legendaries can roll or will roll with 4 stats, making them better if you can get a perfect roll on them. However, retooling or re-rolling stats on a legendary currently in the beta is not available because it requires a hard resource, and while you're playing through the campaign, you're probably not going to want to be spending that resource until you're late game, until you've got those pieces that are pieces you really want to invest into. However, you can make perfect pieces of gear by using rares, and that's kind of what I want to go over, taking a rare weapon and making it perfect. The first step to creating our best piece of gear is understanding the occultist. Now, you unlock the occultist by reaching level 25 or clearing any dungeon, and that will give you the Codex of Power. Now, the Codex of Power has legendary aspects in it, and these aspects you can slot on your gear. However, these aspects will always be the lowest possible roll. And what I mean by lowest possible roll is if you turn on advanced stats, which is really important, you can see what items roll with or what legendary aspects roll with and what the range it rolls with. So for example, this ring says restore 4 of your primary resource when you crowd control an enemy. This is a max roll, as it could be 1 through 4, that's its range, and I rolled a 4. If I was getting that power from here, it would always be 1. It would always be the lowest possible. So these are great for getting your build started, but what you're really looking for is legendaries. Now, legendary weapons, and I will have a video on how to get the most legendaries or the best, most efficient legendary farm. But what you're really looking for is legendaries, because legendaries will have higher rolls of these stats. Now, what we're going to do today is make a perfect legendary weapon. So why are we using rare gear for this example? Simply because rare gear is really easy to improve and much more cost effective. If you get a legendary that drops really well, like this bow, for example, dropped really well for me with vulnerable damage, damage to distant enemies, basic skill damage, and critical strike damage, that's all really good. I wouldn't like break down this bow or move this. You know, it's a good roll. I would probably keep that for the time being. However, build that I'm going for is much more focused on keeping enemies vulnerable, and this crossbow double rolled vulnerable damage. I've got 25% more damage to vulnerable enemies, damage to close enemies, and I rolled dexterity on this for even more damage. So this is going to be my new crossbow, and we're going to be turning this into a legendary, and I just wanted to show you guys how to do that. And there's a few steps that you want to take. So the very first thing that you want to do, if you don't like if there's a stat on your rare that you don't like, you can come to the occultist, and before you make it legendary, because it costs a lot more once it's legendary, is to re-roll it. Now, I've already re-rolled this. I could re-roll it again for 19,000. I'm not going to do that right now, but as you can see, there's a little blue circle right there on the dexterity, meaning that I re-rolled the dexterity stat. This was originally overpower damage. I don't care about overpower damage, so I re-rolled that to dexterity. Just for the sake of the video, we'll roll it one more time. Looks like I got 13% damage to distant enemies. You know what? We'll take the distant damage. We'll take that. So now we've got vulnerable damage, damage to close, damage to distant, double rolled vulnerable. That looks pretty gross. The dexterity also would have been good, but just for the sake of the video, I just wanted to show you that. So now that we've got our rolled weapon, our rolled rare, now we're going to come over and do a few things. So to start us off, we're going to go over, and this is if you find a really good roll that you like want to make perfect. Now we're going to come over to our blacksmith friend here, and our first step is going to be upgrading it. Upgrading it is going to give us better stats. So, and because this is a rare, it's going to cost me less. This is already expensive because it's a higher roll, but just to show you, you could upgrade this. Now we've got 2 out of 3. Let's pop one of those. So now we just spent it. Our item level is now even stronger on this thing. Put this back. Now we've got 22% damage to close, 17% damage to distance, and we've got 18 vulnerable roll, 19 vulnerable roll. So we just increased all of the stats. So you want to make sure that your stats are good there first before you start increasing the power. So now that we've rolled our bow, upgraded it, it's time to make it a legendary. And the first thing we need to do is have a legendary that has the power that we want to put on it. So this has a lucky hit. Your marksman skills have a 10% chance to create an arrow storm at the enemy's location, dealing 216 physical damage. Note that these are on gauntlets. Gauntlets will have a decreased damage modifier because they are a piece of armor. So what we're going to do is we're going to destroy this item and get this legendary aspect. Note it says that it's still going to be 216 physical damage, but if you see the allowed item types, if we put it on a two-handed weapon, the power is going to be increased by 100%. So this is one of the big benefits. If you have a legendary skill that's super good, but it's not doing enough damage because it's on a piece of armor, you can move it to, for example, a two-handed weapon. So we're going to extract this aspect. That is going to then go in our inventory. This originally confused me. I couldn't find where to find this. It goes into your inventory in the aspects tab. Now we're going to imprint our bow with that legendary aspect, creating a new legendary. So we're going to put it in the item slot. Then we're going to grab the aspect from our inventory. Note it still says 216 physical damage, but then in our item preview, it's going to tell us that it's going up double because we're putting on a weapon. So now this damage storm, this arrow storm that would have been doing 216 if we hadn't retooled it, is now going to be doing 432 physical damage because of the improvements that we've made. And as you can see, it's pretty freaking cheap to do the imprint, only $2,000. So that's why we're saving this step for last. You could do all the other expensive stuff up front, and now we've got ourselves a legendary crossbow with the exact stats that we want, with the exact legendary aspect that we want. We put that on, and now we are good to go. This was a quick little tutorial guide on how to make super awesome weapons. The very last step, if you wanted to, because this cost doesn't actually change between legendaries and rares, is to add a jewel socket onto this. You could obviously do this before, but we could now add a socket onto this thing to give it a spot for a jewel or a ruby or whatever. I'll probably put more crit damage on this. And yeah, then you have your perfect weapon. I hope you guys found the video informative. I hope you found it helpful. I will catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.